Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rival Recap Show where we talk Gentlemen's Club football all day, all the time. And I am excited to give the draft recap show today, guys. I am excited to talk through these matchups a little bit, give everyone's X factor, give rankings for the team for each team after looking into it a little more and not just at the draft board. Probably pretty different from what I initially said. I wish I still had that piece of paper. But without further ado, we're just going to get into it because I just tried filming this before and it was like 25 minutes, so I'm going to try and fly. All right, here we go. First matchup, myself versus Joe. And I am giving the edge to myself here, trying not to be biased, but I just, especially with the Zeke situation, don't know how it's going to play out. I just like my team more than I like Joe's. His receiving core is a little weak with Kenny Golladay, DJ Moore, and Sterling Shepard. They're all solid wide receiver twos, but he's lacking a little star power there. This team with Zeke in it just looks 10 times better. Zeke is Joe's X factor. The return on him is going to make or break Joe's season, I think. I mean, he could be back right away, and then we'll just see how it all plays out. My side and the other side, I think my X factor is going to be my running backs. I have a rookie and a second-year guy in Philip Lindsay and Josh Jacobs, and I just, they're young and they're playing each other week one, so I think that'll just be interesting to see. Edge me. Okay. Next matchup. I went back and forth on this one a lot. And it is Christian versus Ortiz. And I will just say I gave the slight edge to Ortiz. I definitely like Christian's running backs better. I think Ortiz has a slight edge at quarterback. Definitely at receiver, even though I like Christian's. What did it for me was the Cooper Kupp versus James White at the flex. James White's just a bit of an unknown. You don't know what kind of carries he's going to get. Advantage Ortiz, X factors. Christian is your flex position. I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out throughout the season. You got Kenny still sitting on the bench. You got Jamison Crowder, probably not your best option. But I'm curious to see what you do with that. I'm always intrigued when people run three running backs. I think it always makes for an interesting outcome because there's a little more unknown than when you just have the traditional three receivers. Slight advantage Ortiz. And Ortiz is X factor is, I think, Kerryon Johnson. He needs him to be great. He lost Lamar Miller. Jordan Howard's his other running back. That's not like a confident start, in my opinion, but he needs Kerryon to be great. He's already got good receivers. Shitty tight end, but that's all right. Moving on. Lamb versus, who's this? Sklar. Advantage Sklar, guys. I like Le'Veon. I think if Devontae Freeman's healthy, that's a good shout. He's got solid receivers. Keenan Allen's definitely great. Lockett, I think, will continue to improve. Calvin Ridley, second year, definitely going to get targets. That team passes the ball like crazy. Other side, Kevin Lamb. I mean, Odell and Tyreek are sick, but I'm not that sold on your running backs. Your running back situation as a whole is what I put as your X factor because I think you need to find, while it probably will be Sony Michel and Miles Sanders, you have five running backs and you have Royce Freeman, Jackson on the Chargers, and Darwin Thompson on the Chiefs. And it's just like five guys that are all in a bit of a committee. It's going to be interesting to see, like, the New England situation with everyone healthy, who's going to get the most touches. Probably Michel, but hey, you never know. Miles Sanders is going to be it's going to be interesting to see how his role grows over the course of the season. As a week one start, it's a little risky, but hey, advantage Ortiz. Moving on. Tony versus Rast. Okay, so I believe these are two of the lower end teams in the league. Honestly, I like both their teams, but they both just lack a little bit of star power. Todd Gurley's Tony's best. James Conner is Rast's best, and James Conner was my best player last year, and I got the 8 seed. I mean, Mike Evans is better than any of my receivers, and he's got Ertz, but as a whole, I think Gurley and Conner are two of the worst best players on any single team. So I have both these guys rated pretty low. As far as their matchup, I have slight edge Rast. The flex matchup and the tight end did it for me. Ertz over McDonald and Jarvis Landry over Peyton Barber. Tony was asking about in the group today what he should do for flex, and no one answered. Maybe no one knows. Maybe no one wants to help. I don't know. But yeah, slight edge Rast. Rest's X factor is going to be the 49ers because he has Tevin Coleman and Dante Pettis. There's a few running backs in that San Francisco backfield, and Dante Pettis is pretty unproven. I know he's had some good games, but it's going to be interesting to see him and Jimmy Garoppolo, how that plays out. I think there's definitely upside there, but that was what I listed as his X factor. And Tony, yours is the flex position, as you were asking about earlier today. Peyton Barber. Who else do you have? Dion Lewis, Anthony Miller, Darius Geese, or Geis, whatever his name is. So interesting to see who you choose each week. Peyton Barber might be a good shout for week 1. We'll see. Moving on, Baltimore versus Porter Chubb, Lynch versus Jones. And this was really hard to gauge as well because Jones' team, Mahomes and McCaffrey, could go for 75 combined any given week. And that's scary. It's scary to see that Jones could just be in any matchup like that. I mean, 75 is obviously very high, but some of the scores those guys put up, it's really not out of the question. I gave slight edge to Lynch, though. I like Lynch's team. I think he's well-rounded. Lynch's X factor, I think, is Mark Ingram. I think that if Ingram has an RB1 caliber season with increased touches in Baltimore than he saw in New Orleans, one can hope for his sake that Lynch's team is actually going to be looking pretty freaking good with Russell Wilson, Nick Chubb, Brandon Cooks, Juju, Hooper, and Emmanuel Sanders, as long as he stays ageless. Jones, other side, X factor. Cook. Dalvin Cook. If he is a stud running back, then Jones' team just got even scarier, and he becomes a three-headed monster of Mahomes, Cook, and McCaffrey. His receivers are kind of on the average side, more in that wide receiver 2 flex arena, but hey, I like Jones' team. His team is nothing like last year. I mean, those two guys could do better than Jones' season average. They probably did last year, but slight edge Lynch. Moving on. Charlie versus Weston. This one there's just another really, really tight matchup. I gave slight edge Charlie, and the reason I did this is because of Weston has some tough matchups. He's got 2 guys on the Bengals, Mixon and Tyler Boyd, playing at Seattle. He's got Ebron playing at the Chargers with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and he's got Aaron Jones playing at the Bears on Thursday night. So I just think on matchups alone, those are just tough all around for some of Weston's key guys. And I like Charlie's. I like Chris Carson, David Montgomery. I'm not a big Derrick Henry on Weston's side. Michael Thomas, Travis Kelce going to do well. Charlie's X factor is his flex position. Whether he starts Will Fuller or not, we will see. It's a little crowded there in Houston at the wide receivers with Kenny Stills joining. So I'm not even sure if he's ready to go week 1 or not, but it'll be interesting to see Fuller's role within that offense and whether he's actually a startable fantasy player or not. That was Charlie's biggest question mark. Weston's is Eric Ebron, and it is his X factor because of what Weston said to me. He believes that Eric Ebron will win him the league because George Kittle did the same last year when George Kittle's quarterback tore his ACL. Now, Ebron's quarterback didn't tear his ACL, but he retired, as we all know. So Weston lost his quarterback before the season even began, effectively, and he thinks that Ebron will lead him to greatness as Kittle did a year ago. So I will give Ebron the X factor. Last matchup, Sedano versus Eric. I mean, guys, this is a no-brainer. This was the easiest matchup to pick because Sedano has the worst team coming out of the draft. He's going to need to make some GM moves, some trades, some prayers. I don't know, but Melvin Gordon not with the team. Doesn't look like he's coming anytime soon. That could change by the time this is posted, but I don't see it. Tate suspended the first 4 weeks. Demaryius Thomas not on the roster of the Patriots. AP's old. Marquise Lee didn't play last year. I mean, he's loaded with question marks, and I believe I put Melvin Gordon actually as his X factor because that is the only thing that can turn this dumpster around at this point. Saquon might be the new McCaffrey of last year for Sklar, as Saquon will be for Sedano this year. And other side, Eric, you won it before I even had to mention anyone on your team, but your team as a starting lineup looks a lot better than it did on the draft board. I don't know why, but Kamara's a stud. Eckler's proving stock by the day. Diggs is great. Godwin is your X factor. You took him in the second pick of the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken. Seemed a little bit of a reach, but we're going to see how that plays out. And if he plays well, your team will certainly be playoff caliber. Once again, Eric Olsen. And that's it for the matchups, guys. I tried to go a little quicker this time. Hopefully I'm doing okay on time. Quick, going to go through the ratings. Spencer Sklar, Matt Lynch, Eric Olson, Charlie Carita, Mike Weston, Ian Jones, Ortiz, Christian at 8, Joe at 9, Rast at 10, Tony at 11. Wrong. Lamb at 10, Rast at 11, Tony at 12, Sedano at 13. I gave the overall to Sklar and Lynch at the top. They had two of the most well-rounded teams, I felt. Maybe I'm biased towards Le'Veon. I don't know. But, guys, I tried to do this a little quicker, and it's already 10 minutes. So, without further ado, we're going to go to a special segment from another member of our league. Surprise. Here you go. Thanks.
Thank you, Marsh. Gentlemen, welcome to Safe Space, an open and anonymous forum that allows league members to talk trash about upcoming matchups, our subpar commissioner, or really anything that your heart desires that's transpired over the last 4 years. Feel free to make a submission at any time, and each week I'll share the top ones. With that, let's get started on this week's. Our first and most lengthy submission comes about John Sedano, the subject being his draft. John, I completely understand how you wish it was still 2014. You were banging Sam Freitas on the reg, playing G-Eazy at pre-games before anyone ever heard of him, and that was really right before your boner issues started to act up. However, it's apparent that your appeal to nostalgia has directly consequenced your draft with a team full of washed-up players. Your team is so washed up, I had 3 of your players' jerseys when I was still in middle school. I didn't think it was possible for Saquon Barkley to be surrounded by a worse group of football players than the actual New York Giants, but congrats on finding a way. It's kind of true. It's more likely that Nick Pavick gets a job sooner than Melvin Gordon comes back to your team. Good luck next year, kid. Start practicing the blinkies. That was a strong first submission, if I do say. Our next one is about Charlie Carita. Charlie, you're as tall as a tree, but as dumb as a blade of grass. Way to draft 2 kickers, you fucking asshole. Still waiting on the Rosas drop. 2 fucking kickers. Sam Darnold sucks too. This next one was submitted about me. Narduli. Your team is a group of waiver wires. Clever submission there, guy. Preserving confidentiality, but we know the group of members that just aren't clever and suck and are going to lose to me week 1. Our next one's about Tony. I've never walked away from a draft thinking to myself, wow, Tony actually had a pretty good draft this year. That was my favorite submission. And our last one sways away from the actual draft and actually looks at a week 1 matchup. Eric, I can't wait to piss down your throat this week. Preserving confidentiality, but I believe Eric Olson plays John Sedano in week 1. With that, swinging it back the coast to Marsh. Thank you.